likes to call Ocarina of Time the greatest game ever made, and yeah, it's hard to argue against its greatness, but before that one enters the vault, I wanted to add a more personal favorite. A lot of you remember The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask as that one Zelda game that you couldn't get into, and I don't blame you. After all, you did kinda have to wait until nighttime to find a fairy so that you could restore the Great Fairy, so that you could get your magic ability, so that you could shoot a bubble at the balloon, so that the Bomber Kids could play hide and seek with you, so that you could figure out the code to their secret base, so that you could look through the telescope so that the moon would cry, so that you could give its tear to the other Deku Scrubs, so that you could use his super flower, so that when the carnival finally did start at midnight 2 whole days later, you could go up the stairs so that you could get your ocarina back, so that you could remember the Song of Time, and then you could save the game for the first time. Believe me, I understand perfectly if you got too frustrated to even make it to the first dungeon. Oh, and that's not even mentioning the very alien nature of this game, with Ganon not being the villain, only having 4 dungeons, that music almost always having that ominous, dreary tone to it. Yeah, this game lacked the accessibility of its predecessor, for sure. But even so, Majora's Mask was special to me as a kid. Because they only had 18 months to make this game, they reused a lot of assets from Ocarina of Time, so character models that you saw in that game fill different roles in this one. And here's where I'll get a little personal. When this game came out and I played it for the first time, I was going through my first big move away from my friends, and the ones that I made in my new home reminded me of people I used to know. It was like I had some familiarity again, despite being in this strange new place. Just like in Majora's Mask. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say this game was any sort of catharsis in the end, but with the weird time mechanic adding on to the stress of 80 billion tons of nightmare fuel looming overhead at all times, but the overall weirdness of Majora's Mask is part of what gives it its own identity. Hunting for masks was cool, especially the ones that granted you transformations, and getting to know each character in Termina makes you want to stop that moon from falling all the more. Anyone who's completed the Café in Anjou side quest will second that. I love Ocarina of Time, with all my heart. But even with a long intro and mechanics that drove lots of fans away, Majora's Mask is still my personal favorite of the whole series. Majora's Mask may be my personal favorite Zelda ever, but we've also talked about our least favorites in the series. And apparently I thought it best to look like a caveman that day, so click on that video to see Caveman Nick. And also, we know that Zelda typically does boss battles rather well, so if you want to see the 10 best ever of all time, click that video on the right. Thanks for watching.